Like a beautiful flower blooming in the heat of summer, a crudely constructed snowman in the depths of December, fantasy football was here one day and gone the next. Many exceeded everyone's expectations and won their league's championship, and others, such as myself, drafted Michael Thomas in the first round. With many ups and downs in the fantasy season, there are always giant performances. Weeks where players single-handedly win you your matchup, or let your opponent get away with starting Mitchell Trubisky. In this list, which we here at Thickman have formed, we do not care about quarterbacks. We are counting down the top 5 fantasy performances of the 2020 football season. So Justin Herbert, you can take your long hair, your sallow skin, and your 40-point pop-off and buzz right off. We are here for the athletes. And start things off at number 5 with my man from Minnesota, Dalvin Cook. In a must-win Week 8 battle against the division rival Green Bay, Dalvin Cook set fire to the Packers' front 7, scorching them for 163 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. He also had a spicy 63 yards and another TD through the air. Cook elevated the struggling Vikings to a win against the number 1 seed in the NFC, while netting himself 48.6 fantasy points. The Vikings had a lot of issues in 2020, but Dalvin Cook certainly wasn't one of them. He is our number 5 fantasy performer of 2020.
If the Vikings were a playoff team, I do think there'd be a lot more discussion about him being a non-quarterback MVP. It wouldn't just be Derrick Henry in that discussion. And speaking of Derrick Henry, coming in at number 4, we have Derrick Henry's Week 6 performance against Houston, and showed why he's been in the MVP discussion, because his team's also a playoff team. He popped off for 212 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and 52 yards receiving. He was incredible. He averaged 9.6 yards a carry. I was late to the Derrick Henry party compared to Isaiah. Isaiah was riding the wave last year. He was Isaiah's favorite running back. He was telling me how much better he was than Saquon. Granted, Saquon hasn't been able to kind of make a name for himself this year because he tore his ACL, but I am there. Derrick Henry is now one of my favorite players. When the game is on the line, there is no one else I'd rather give the ball to than Derrick Henry. He sealed the Texans game with a Wildcat touchdown. And you know when he's lined up at quarterback, he's going to be running the ball, and he still scores. Isaiah can attest to this better than I can, but it is similar to watching Adrian Peterson in that sense. You can only hope that you are going to slow him down. You are not stopping him, and he's going to keep popping off.
Derrick Henry is a man who wakes up every day and chooses violence. Some of his stiff arms this year could best be categorized as assault. I'd say they're worse than Myles Garrett hitting Mason Rudolph over the head with a helmet. But coming in, an unprecedented tie for the second place spot on our list, we have Tyreek Hill and Darren Waller. And in Tyreek Hill's Week 12 performance against the Buccaneers, it was a game which was supposed to be a clash between Brady and Mahomes, 2 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, squaring off, trading blows. Tyreek Hill stole the show and sprinted downfield with it for 80 yards and a touchdown. Hill had an astounding 269 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. He had 203 yards in the first quarter. If I was Carlton Davis, I would pull a Vontae Davis and retire at the half. That is embarrassing. All this goes to show you that you do not leave Tyreek Hill, the fastest man in the league, in single coverage. The Buccaneers had arrogance. They tried to single cover him. They said, you can beat us if you can outrun us. Tyreek Hill outran him. Hill finished with 57.9 fantasy points, the most of any wide receiver since 2000. I will not even mention the man ahead of him. He is a bum who is incarcerated. Compared to Tyreek Hill, he is nothing. But this was the greatest number of fantasy points scored by any player this year. But we still have him as a tie for second. Tristan, how about you tell us about the other man who he's tied with?
Darren Waller is a tight end that needs to be talked about more. He is incredible. He lifted and elevated the Raiders' offense to heights this year we couldn't have expected, and without him, I think the Raiders are pretty bummy. If it were not for his all-time great performance against the Jets in Week 12, the Raiders would have been the first laughingstock of the year to fall to the Jets. In that game, he put up 13 catches for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. This performance is the 5th greatest all-time by a tight end. And the last time a tight end did anything this close to it was in 2002 when Shannon Sharp had 12 catches for 214 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was an all-time performance and shows why he's emerging as one of the best tight ends in the NFL. I think he's right there talent level with Kelsey and Kittle. He is truly special. In this performance, he put up 45 fantasy points and probably won you the game because it's unprecedented to get that many points from a tight end.
He will truly surprise you. He's like a taller, bigger, slower Shan Sharp in a lot of ways, but he can even lay down a mean block, something Sharp can never do. But finally, at number 1, we have the man who earned hundreds of people a win in their championship games, Alvin Kamara. And when the lights are the brightest, the great players of the sporting world shine. You see that when guys like Adam Vinatieri nail the Super Bowl winning kick as time expires, or when Michael Jordan collects his 6th ring on a last-second shot, sending the Utah Jazz home. And you saw when Alvin Kamara came in and obliterated the Minnesota Vikings in Week 16. Kamara had not 1, not 2, but 6, yes 6 rushing touchdowns, the most rushing touchdowns ever recorded in an NFL game, paired with 172 yards of total offense, en route to a Saints massacre of the Minnesota Vikings, eliminating their January boogeyman from the playoffs. These numbers earned him an astounding 56.2 fantasy points. Sure, Tyreek Hill has scored more points than him, but you don't win your fantasy championship during the regular season. You win in the playoffs. You win it when league players make big plays down the stretch. When it mattered the most, Alvin Kamara had the greatest fantasy performance of the 2020 season.
The performance was absolutely incredible. I feel bad for Isaiah because he had to watch Kamara absolutely tear apart his favorite team with the most rushing touchdowns ever. That had to sting a little bit, but that has been our video. That is our best performance of the year. Let us know how you would have ranked the performers we have. Is there someone you would have slid in there? Would you have slid Tyler Lockett's performance ahead of anyone else? Like the video, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.